Hey guys, Eric here, and welcome to the Live the Movie Team weekly Google Hangout team meeting. And this is June 29th. It's officially the summertime. I just realized that the light is not on in my room, and if I don't turn that on in about 20 minutes, you're not gonna be able to see anything. So I'll do that in a second. But anyway, you guys are here because you're either one of the leaders on our team, or you're watching the replay, or you're someone who got sent here by one of the leaders and you wanted to learn about, what our team's about, and what we do and what we focus on, but also the topic for tonight. And our team and all the individuals in our team have been in a lot of transition over the last few months, and it's been some challenges, but there's also been a lot of positive things. And one of the ways to look at that is the topic for tonight was to look at your life as a business instead of your business as your life. A lot of people, if you go to a party or like a get together or something and you're talking to people and you always get the, oh, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. And then the next question is, oh, what's going on or what's up? Oh, just working. And just like mentally in people's heads, they think work is like the only thing they do, even though they obviously eat meals and might have extracurricular activities they do and spend time with family or whatever they do. But it's just a way of thinking about things. And from, most of us were connected to one particular online network marketing opportunity, which was fantastic because we all learned a lot of great stuff. We created our team from it. But at the same time, when they changed some things on us, it created some challenges. And there's some positive things that came out of those challenges. And then as we've started to explore as a team, we've created our own platinum membership, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But we've also, each of us individually, have kind of looked into other opportunities, which I'll touch on one of the new opportunities I'm getting involved with beyond the platinum membership. I'm excited for Mallory to share. She had already started her business, but she officially had her business. You're on twice now.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what just happened. No, actually, I do know what just happened. I tried to log out of my other account, which is clearly why I'm on here twice.
So funny.
And it looks like I'm going to stay on here twice because I don't know how to get rid of the other one.
That's all right. You're already in the 22nd century where you can like clone yourself and stuff.
Yeah, secretly I've done that. So you're seeing the other version of me right now.
Exactly. What I was actually saying, I don't know if you heard this, was that some of the things that have happened that's where we create our platinum membership from, but all of us have also explored different opportunities because of that. I know Rob has decided to actually really focus a lot on his own coaching, so getting the skills that he's got to get some one-on-one coaching clients. Besides our platinum membership, I have an opportunity that I'm getting involved in for a specific reason. And then I was saying, as you came back on, that even though you've had the idea and you kind of started it last year, you've officially kind of kicked off your business with the paint nights and stuff, which must be really exciting. So as we go along, you can share stuff about that, and also in the framework of kind of what I'm sharing of how I kind of mentally think through things and stuff. And it's interesting because a lot of stuff I shared last night, I had a call with one of the leaders on our team, Rob, a couple weeks ago. And one of the things I said with him before I had the call is I said, hey, my goal of having this call isn't to have you sign up and do everything I'm doing. It's really to have you say, what are your goals? What are you looking for? And where does it fit in with what we're doing? And, we kind of pick some things to focus on. Some are part of what we're doing, and some are his own things and are not associated with certain things we're doing. And that's kind of the same thing. But it all comes back to, how do you look at your life? How do you look at your goals? And I'm going to kind of walk through the mental process that I went through during this entire transition from being a part of one network marketing company, kind of as a somewhat primary income for me and a second one for Meg and I. And then, kind of transitioning into a lot of things we're doing. And again, it's not all about money. It's kind of, you could use this for anything, but it's really looking at what are your goals and how can you, we always talk about asking good questions. And if you're not in the right state of mind, you can't even think of the right things that possibly could fit into your what you would want in your life. I'll give you an example. One of the times this is what positive, asking yourself positive questions can do for you. But anyway, Meg was actually working at a recruiting office, and she just didn't jive with the office, right? So they end up mutually parting ways, but we needed another income. This was almost 2 years ago now, but we needed another income. So she comes home, she doesn't have a job, I don't have my business rolling, but we kind of had a discussion, and we said, all right, we're gonna find some interviews, and she literally got a job in less than 24 hours. And it wasn't a high-paying job, but it was something that filled the void for the minute, and she did that for a little bit. And the interesting thing, though, was when she went and worked at that job, like I said, it wasn't high-paying, and it wasn't a commission-based job. And it was just interesting. She made a couple friends there, but she had to be kind of the positive influence on those people, because it was one of those things where those people weren't necessarily asking themselves positive questions. And if you're working on a job that's low wage and you don't have goals and you think everything's against you and you have all these issues or whatever, no wonder, you can't think about the fact that, hey, you could have a side business if you wanted to. Hey, you could pursue a passion, because it's not even in your realm of thinking. And then you're also surrounded by an environment that's reinforcing that. So, of course, that ended up being a very short-lived thing, because the environment wasn't great either. And it didn't seem like recruiting was the right thing for Meg. But that's just an example there. So let me turn this light on real quick before it's completely dark in here.
It's like a couple of weeks ago when I was out on my back porch, and I didn't really realize there was zero lighting out there. So I had to have like a white screen on my computer show up, because I don't have a light on my computer either. I guess I could have moved back in the house, but it was kind of funny as we did the hangout, it just got darker and darker until it was pitch black.
Yeah, it was fun. It was very light when we started, though.
Yeah, it was.
So, all right, cool. So let me see. I got some stuff. I wrote it down here. So this might be an interesting thought, to share with the whole group, and you can help me with this, Mel. So one of the things is, sometimes you actually are hitting the goals that you set for yourself and you don't realize it. At our last mastermind in Greenville, one of our team leaders, Dario, actually went through this whole talk where he talked about Jim Rohn, who is Tony Robbins' mentor. He talked about Jim Rohn's mentor, and he told us all about this individual and the story, and he actually played an audio from one of his speeches a long time ago. And it's funny, they sound just like Jim Rohn's speeches and Tony Robbins, just in a different way. But the interesting thing he was pointing out is, he said, if you wanna grow a very specific type of flower, you have to pick that exact seed, and you have to plant it the right way, and you have to do that. And he was saying that if you want to hit a goal, you have to be so specific. If you set a general goal, you'll get a general outcome, but you won't necessarily get a specific outcome. And one of the reasons that I think about that is it's so important to have big goals that are specific and not ambiguous, because when you have big goals with specific outcomes that you want to achieve, and they can be both internal goals and materialistic goals, it forces you to not settle. We talked about this on a Hangout a couple weeks ago. One of the guys I follow a lot on Facebook, Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about how his goal in life is to be in pursuit of being the owner of the New York Jets. And the reason is to be the owner of the New York Jets, you have to be either a billionaire or a multi-hundred millionaire, and you have to have connections, you have to know people, you have to run successful businesses, you need to know what you're doing, you need to have helped millions and millions of customers so that you made the money to be in position to actually be a part of an ownership group to buy a team like that. So even though his goal is kind of based on something that might be not selfish, but based on something that's based on money and status and all that stuff, all the things he has to do to be able to be in position to even have that happen are all based on service and giving and following his mission and all that stuff. So basically, having really big specific goals, they keep you from settling. If you really think about it, if my goal was to buy one of the sports teams that I'm a fan of, my thinking would have to go to a whole nother level, right? It would be a totally different realm of thinking. You might say, Eric, that's impossible. Like, you don't have anywhere close to that much money. And that's true, but you could be thinking in a different light. this is kind of a side note, but I don't know if any of you know this, but I saw this graphic. You guys know Warren Buffett, you know, the #1 investor of all time. Him and Bill Gates keep going back and forth with who's the richest person in the world, but they're both around like $60 billion. I'm 28, and at 28 years old, Warren Buffett's net worth was $140,000. $140,000, and now he's worth $60 billion. So even if your net worth right now is zero, that's, you know, he was at 140,000. The percentage of 140,000 to 60 billion is like 100 million, you know, 1/100,000th or something. I know not everybody's a numbers person, but it's just an example about he was nowhere close to being on track to that goal. But since he had a goal, maybe that number wasn't the goal, but a goal to have a successful investment firm that was managing billions of dollars, he was able to achieve stuff like that. So the second part of what I want to share about looking at your life as a business is that I wanted to discuss why some challenges outside of your control are actually very beneficial for you, and they become beneficial to you as soon as you see what the benefits are. So as I mentioned before, you know, we're very transparent with our team and what we're doing. So we were, like I said, we were part of a network marketing opportunity that was really great for a while, and we learned so much stuff. The events were fun. We met so many people that we're actually still connected to, but in other opportunities. And you know, they ended up changing their commission plan and a few other things, and it really didn't align with what a lot of us wanted to do and accomplish from that standpoint. We were disappointed because the rest of it was awesome, but you know, sometimes if you can't see the big future with what you're doing, you have to do something else. And it was kind of tough because for me, I was making a decent amount of money doing it, so my income from that went down. All the leaders on our team, many of them were making not a ton of money, but we're starting to get some real momentum and starting to really understand what was going on. And a few people actually did have a little bit of a residual on the side that was going, whether it was 300, 500, $1,000. And it was disappointing for them, but also for me, helping them on that path to now say, oh my God, we gotta do other things. But one of the interesting things is sometimes if something glaring like that didn't stick out, you might have gone longer in an opportunity that wasn't exactly what you were looking for. And then down the line, when you're in a different place, whatever opportunities you might have pursued because that challenge came up might not be available in the future or might not work then. So one of the things a big challenge does is it gives you a chance to really evaluate what's important. So let's say you have a health issue, right? Then you really evaluate what's important. Is eating this crappy food important? Is getting all stressed out about trying to make more money, is that important? You know, so wherever a big challenge kind of, maybe you participated in the creation of the challenge, but it wasn't entirely you, and you can't really change it this second, is it really makes you evaluate what's important to you. And what's interesting for me is that my #1 focus for the last 3.5 years, even though I would say that well, my goal has been personal development. It's been to be able to make an income online. It's been able to do this. Really, my focus has been on freedom. And I've been able to do that for the last 3.5 years, not having a consistent traditional job for the last 3.5 years. I've had different projects. I've worked at offices 9 to 5 for like a period of time and different stuff like that. But my main focus, it might have been subconscious, was all about freedom. And I actually was able to achieve that. But the problem with that is freedom as a focus is not a goal. It's not like a specific number goal. It's not like we have this much money so we can do this. It's not, you know, it's not related to something specific. And the other thing is, freedom is kind of a minimum number, right? Because it's like enough money so that I don't have to show up to a job and be able to stay at home and do this and do this. Well, the problem with that is, remember we were talking about how do you think if you want to become a billionaire or you want to own the New York Jets or whatever. Well, if your threshold is freedom, then how subconsciously, how much harder are you going to work beyond that? Because your focus isn't, let's make 200 grand a year. Let's make $1 million a year. Let's, you know, save $10,000 to give to charity or something like that. It's just freedom. That's kind of like, in a weird roundabout way, it's like am I able to pay my bills? And instead of going to a business, I just happen to be at home. So I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It was actually a great learning experience, but the problem is the focus, right? The focus on what you want. So not only between the transition from our network marketing opportunity, but learning about all this stuff that we've been learning since we really created our own Platinum membership and kind of branched out just as our team. A couple Hangouts ago, we talked about Peter Diamandis, who's a big guy in the technology field, and we talked about some things about how he's predicting people our age could live to 150 very easily, and he has goals of way beyond that. You start to think in a different way when you start looking at that, and you start thinking about if that's a real possibility. And that might not happen for everyone, but one of the things I know is one of the variables is how you eat, how you drink, how you think. I think I do a pretty good job of that. I think Meg does a pretty good job of that. I know Mal does a pretty good job of that. I know everybody was raving about one of her recipes from the other day. Meg was talking about it. My mom was talking about it. Somebody else was talking about it. So you're on the right track if you're doing some of those things. So it just gets you thinking in a very different light. And I also thought about that whole concept of, if you were going to live to 150 or you were going to live to 200, and that means you were going to be someone who was able to work till 70 or 100 or whatever the numbers are, would you look at what you're doing in a completely different light? And one of the things that I came to mind for me in this last few months is that the most important thing for me actually at this moment is not freedom. There's a huge personal development part that I want, and I want to keep focusing on. But my most important thing in my life is to make sure that certain things are taken care of so that family is number one, because we have Logan, who was just born last month, and we're planning to have 1 or 2 more kids. Who knows exactly, but we're planning on having those kids in the short term. And if your focus is on freedom, just trying to get by or whatever the thing is, and then you also want to do this and you also want to do this. So life's about choices, right? And you just can't do everything all at the same time. So I started to think about it. I said, you know what? If for me, I said, I started to evaluate different things and say, okay, so does that mean I need a job? Does that mean I need to do this? What does that mean? I want to make sure I'm still doing certain things, all this stuff. And the first thing I came to was that my passion is still personal development. It's having a team, it's helping people improve and do those things. But we're just starting out our Platinum membership. We have a few members, and it's going to be a process over time to grow it into a big thing. I know Mallory talked about that vision of maybe 3 or 4 years to now 50 or 60 people on one of our Live the Movie experiences. And I know we could definitely do it, but you heard us say, 3 or 4 years or 2 or 3 years, that's a period of time. And when I started to think about it, and I said, if I could have that, and we could have that group, we could have those three trips every year, we could have our Hangouts, we could have our book club, we could have our ticket program. But for me and for a lot of the leaders, it wasn't like this have to make money thing, because then if the focus is more about money than personal development, then it doesn't have the same excitement that it could have, because I just want it to be about personal development, and the money side of it is an additive. So that was one of the things I talked about. I said, if this could be like an awesome side project for the moment that could grow into something huge over time, that would make it fantastic, and then also could fulfill my goal of keeping family first. So then I said, well, what else could I do then? Because again, we're still involved in other opportunities with our mentors, Brian and Rhonda, with the Freedompreneur Academy and some other opportunities. But same thing, those things are kind of in a starting over stage, and it's going to take time before that could become like any type of full-time income or anything like that. And you guys have heard me say this before, but the goal shouldn't actually be freedom, it should be choice. It should say, I have a bunch of things going on, now what do I want to do? So one of the things I thought about is I said, and the topic for tonight is looking at your life as a business, is that I even said this on the preview video for this call. I said, even if someone takes like a temp job, or they take another side job where you are trading your time for money, You know, Rob's doing the coaching, Mallory's doing her paint night, but that's her passion. Rob loves coaching people. That type of stuff I don't consider to be like, oh, I'm going to do a job or something like that. You know what I mean? If it's something you enjoy and that's what you'd be doing if money was taken care of, then that's what it's all about. So I started to say to myself, I said, okay, well, if I want for the time being, the Platinum membership to be a side thing as we kind of build it, Freedompreneur and all that is going to be a building process over time because they're rolling that out. Sorry, my computer's being wacko. Let's see. All right. Let's see if that sticks. Okay. So then I started to say, well, I still, you know, I don't remember the focus. I don't want to be money specifically, but it would be great if I had an opportunity where money was taken care of so that Freedompreneur Platinum membership was all about what it's supposed to be. Growing an online business based on yourself, and our Platinum membership was supposed to be about personal development, culture, travel, all that stuff. So then I kind of sat down and I said, okay, well, if I were to do something else, whether it is a job that fits the regular business hours or something different, what would my criteria be? And I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I said, well, it must be something I would enjoy, because at first it would be like, okay, this is cool, sweet, like I can pay my bills. So now everything I make on the side is you know, is extra. But if that's your main focus, people settle into what they do, right? So, you know, a few paychecks later, it'd be like, oh, do I actually really enjoy this or not? So it'd be cool to have that feeling of security. But after a while, you're just like, okay, well, do I actually enjoy this? So that was the first thing. You know, I wrote down, it can't be something that's highly stressful all the time. Anything you do is going to have periods of stress. Anything you're going to do is going to have either a busy season or something consistent, but just couldn't be high stress all the time. For me, that would probably be like, you know, high phone sales where you have to hit a quota or something. That just wouldn't work for me. I could do it, but I wouldn't really enjoy that at the moment. I wrote down ownership over my role, ownership over what I'm doing. I wrote down freedom based on effort, right? So something where if you did a better job, you got more freedom, whether it was time freedom or you were able to earn more money or whatever that is. You know, one of the things that I talked about is I to kind of position myself to think like a Gary Vaynerchuk. So it's not a money, even though this is a money goal, even though what I'm about to say is a money goal, it's actually not based on money. It's based on evaluating what you want to do. So I said my new goal is to retire with over $10 million at 70 years old, even without becoming a 7-figure online marketer. And the reason I say that is not that I won't become a 7-figure online marketer. It's because I wanted to say, what would I do if that only was ever a side thing? If that was something, a supplement, and then I use that to invest in the stock market or invest in other opportunities or invest in our Platinum membership or whatever it was, you know, what exactly would I do or focus on? So I'll bring this full circle back to looking at your life as a business in a second. So I said, I must be able to use all the skills I've learned, even if it's not like a specific leadership position or personal development. If I can't use my skills that I've learned, then I'm going to, 6 months into it, I'm going to go crazy because, you know, it's you know, you got to use what you've learned. I said, if it's someplace I have to go to work, there can't be you know, consistent traffic on the way to get there, that it's going to take me hours and hours, because even if I'm doing some sort of work, there has to be a way that if have extra time, I'm reading, I'm spending time with my family, I'm doing different stuff, so that, again, that way, if I'm doing a position or something like that, that's part of my day. That's part of my day. That is not my day entirely. I said must be an amazing office or a cool office or something that I'd be excited to show up to. And then I said must have some sort of busy season, preferably during the winter. Because I'm not a winter person, but if I'm going to stay stationary in New England, I'd rather be distracted and focus on working hard then. So then in the summertime or all that, I'm able to do whatever I want. So that's just something I came up with. So again, if I wasn't thinking about this stuff, if I wasn't asking questions, if I didn't set the goal, the opportunity that I'm talking about never would have crossed my mind. Yet, it's been an opportunity that's been available to me my whole life. I've actually even done it multiple times in the past, but wasn't even thinking that I could do it, right? So what I'm talking about is my family, specifically my dad and my uncle, own a accounting and financial planning business. And I actually went to school for corporate finance and accounting and did graduate with a degree in corporate finance and accounting from currently the number 10 business school in the country. So, you know, they weren't just going to hire me because I'm so-and-so, but you know, I actually have a degree and some certificates and things like that. But one of the things I talked about is I reached out to my dad and my uncle, and I kind of said, you know, are you looking for anybody? Would you need help? And I kind of threw out what I'd be interested in doing and how that would fit. And it started all these discussions. And, you know, here we are probably 3 weeks later from me first reaching out to them. And I actually am going to start with them next week. But the interesting thing about it is that remember I talked to you about like these criteria, right? So something I would enjoy. I went back and forth. Remember, this is a conversation with my dad, right? And he said, you know, are you looking for a job for like a really short period of time just to pay the bills, or if things go well, is it something you want to do for a while? And I said, if I enjoy it, of course I'd want to be there. And on my side, I said, I won't enjoy it if I don't think I can utilize some of the skills that I have. So we came to understanding of what I'd be doing and how it would work. You know, my second criteria, can't be high stress all the time. Obviously, I would be involved with tax season. I'm going to be more on the financial planning, asset management side, but at the same time, I would be involved in the tax season. So there's some part of that. Ownership of what I'm doing. My job is actually to learn all the programs that they have and actually do what I've been doing online, right? Learn all these programs that they're not utilizing correctly, learn them for myself, and then reteach them to them so that they can then share them with the clients and actually have them utilize them more properly so that those people get more trust and want to be, you know, maybe invest more money or recommend more people or different things like that. The next thing I wrote down is freedom based on effort. So this wasn't the main criteria of why I joined, but again, this whole point is not to tell you I found a really cool opportunity. It's to think about these ideas. And one of the things is they have a non-vacation time policy for salaried employees, which means there is no vacation time policy. So you don't have 2 weeks vacation, you don't have no weeks vacation, you don't have 100 weeks vacation. You know, you can't have 100 weeks vacation, but what it is that it's one of those things where, you know, they said to me, I met with the three partners, my dad, my uncle, and Mike, the other day, and they said, you know, you can take 8 weeks off, but if you just barely get by, you're not going to get any raises or bonuses or whatever. If you're bringing tons of value to the firm, you're bringing a ton of clients that are adding value to managing their money, which obviously brings in more money to the firm, which can be, you know, delivered onto you. We don't care if you show up 1 out of every 5 weeks or whatever. So it was one of those things. And I said, one of the things I said when I was meeting with my dad is I said, it's not actually that you had to have an unlimited vacation time policy that would have kept me from doing this job. What actually would have kept me from doing this job is I'll give you an example. So my great uncle passed away a couple weeks ago, and I went to his wake. And I have a cousin named Jim who got married last year to his wife Lauren, and they were there, and we were talking, and one of my other cousins was having a graduation party a couple days later. And I asked them, hey, are you coming to this graduation party? And they said, no, we can't. And I was like, oh, why not? And they said, well, our mutual best friend decided they were going to get married on a Thursday, and we each have 2 weeks of vacation from our job. So we had to decide, are we going to go on our big trip that we had planned, or are we going to go and take 2 days off and go to our friend's wedding? And that was one of the things, when I heard them say that, they were just so down. Like, their friend's wedding is supposed to be this awesome thing, and they were so sad and almost like pissed. And for me, that's a thing. When you talk about freedom and freedompreneur lifestyle or whatever, you're always going to be trading your time for money for something, right? But that type of stuff would drive me crazy. And if I was doing a job, I would shut down. I'd be like Matthew Kelly calls them quit and stay people. Like, when did you quit? Oh, 3 years ago. Oh, you're still here? Yeah, I'm still here, but I quit, right? that would just turn me off so bad. And I know the industry they're in, it's a little bit tougher to have you know, that type of policy, but still, for me, that just would have been crazy. So my point is, I wasn't going to turn around and say, yeah, I'm taking 8 weeks of vacation this first year. All I'm saying is, if some event comes up and I have to take off a Friday or a Thursday and a Friday, or there's an appointment to go to, basically I have freedom. And what's interesting is when you have freedom, you actually most of the time will just follow what you're supposed to do, because I like routine as well. I just don't want to be in a box where I have to do everything all the time, no matter what. So that's just an example. One other thing I wrote down on the list, which I don't think I talked about, but I wrote down must have a match. So if you're working for a company, sometimes they match if you put money into your retirement account. So they do that because that's like free money. And one of the reasons I did that is because I talked about my goal, right, of wanting to have $10 million at 70, but also, and this was something I discussed with Rob, and I know I'm going on somewhat of a tangent to get back around, but one of the things that I lost my train of thought. Okay, what was I saying? So I don't remember what I was saying, but I'll come back to it. So must use my skills, must have no traffic. It's a straight shot down 128 to get to their office. And
you said something about routine. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Routine.
You said routine, and then you were like, I don't want to be in a box where I have to do certain things a certain way, and I don't know.
Oh, I know what it was. It was that. So one of the things I talked to Rob about is that because my background's in finance and accounting, and I've actually been around it my whole life, I actually have been very good with money my whole life. But what's interesting is, up until I started doing all this stuff where I was really good with money, I was terrible with, not terrible, but I wasn't good with, like, say, relationships, with having a lot of friends. I had a bunch of friends, but not a lot of close friends. I never had a girlfriend, you know, those type of things. I wasn't good at public speaking and all that stuff that I then learned. But one of the things I had was I always paid my bills. I had no credit cards. I had more money than most college students or high school students or whatever, but I was kind of miserable because I didn't have the psychology to really learn this stuff. So I've spent the last 8 years basically improving every other area of my life. And although we got to travel for 9 months and do all that stuff, remember, it was about freedom. It wasn't about this specific number or this income goal or whatever. I spent a lot of money on education, so I still have a lot of bills from that stuff. So finances kind of went by the wayside. So for me, you know, one of the things that Jim Rohn always says, he says, if you want to get good at something, study it. So one of the other reasons I thought about going back and working with my dad is I said, well, if I'm going to be around that all the time and I'm going to be looking at stocks and the stock market and managing people's money and making plans, you think I'm not going to actually make my own plan and follow through and set goals related to that area? So if all the other areas of my life are not perfect, but I feel like I'm making a lot of progress, and there's one area that I know they say if you don't know something unless you do it. I wouldn't say that's always true, because I know a lot. I know all the financial principles, but some of them I haven't followed through on the best. But if you want to get back to something you used to be good at, study it, and that's one of the ways to do it. So that's where that whole offering a match and focusing on that stuff came about. Office, all that stuff. Must have a busy season during the winter. I actually enjoyed, when I was in Cutco, I enjoyed push weeks. I enjoyed having a period of time where you're focused on work. I didn't want to be in a position where you're working hard all the time, but to have a period of time where you did go out of balance in the other direction, that was something I'm excited about. So here's the cool part, right? You think about all the other goals that I had. You know, I talked about on a previous call wanting to go on, 2 or 3 family vacations a year, wanting to, be able to do our, platinum membership, our 2 masterminds, and our experience. That fits right in with what I'm doing. It's just all those hours in between, I'm actually making money and contributing to people and improving different areas, things that I'm excited about, and moving forward financially as well. And the cool thing is, because that I'm doing that, my guess is the platinum membership will do really well, because it's not this concern, big concern. Being involved with Brian, Ron, and Freedompreneur, I'm sure it'll take some time, but I'm sure it'll go faster than it would have, because it's not like, oh my God, this has to work right now. And actually taking that long-term approach that sort of came into my mind when I was thinking about, switching out of our network marketing opportunity, and then also all this stuff we learned and talked about with Peter Diamandis and living longer and all this stuff. All this stuff came together to create all of these ideas. So that was a long-winded way of kind of saying, look at your life as a business. And for me, I don't look at it as like, hey, I have a job. It's actually kind of like, I have a consulting client. I happen to put a lot of hours into it because they're also paying me a decent amount of money. Could you imagine having a client that pays you tens of thousands of dollars a year? Like, if you thought of that as part of your business, right? Something like that. Or like for Mallory, if you thought of paint night as part of your business, and maybe some other side project as part of your business, and you looked at the whole thing rather than just the one thing you're doing. And that's one of the reasons so many people struggle with network marketing opportunities. They see it, they see the lifestyle, they see the freedom, and they put all their focus and effort to it, but maybe they don't have the money to be able to fund it even more, to pay for advertising, to wait the time to make it happen. And then they push and push and push, and then it takes longer and longer and longer. And maybe they're also not pursuing their passions because they were doing something just for the money. So so that was a long-winded way of saying all that stuff. But any feedback on what I covered just in general, Mal? And then maybe based on what I was saying, what was your kind of thought process as you were thinking through the last couple of months of what you wanted to do and focus on?
Yeah, totally. I think the biggest thing that I just got from what you said is just how the very beginning of what you said was when you want to go to plant a flower, for example, let's say you want to plant a sunflower, you have to get a sunflower seed to start. That you can't get a pine tree seed; it won't grow the same thing. That would be an acorn, right? But anyway, so you plant the sunflower seed. It has to be in a lot of sun. It has to, in the beginning stages, it has to be covered with something if it's going to be outside so that no birds get to it or other animals get to it. And then once it sprouts and starts to actually grow, it can start to grow, but it has to be in the sun all the time. The only reason I know this is because I planted a sunflower. But the example that you gave where it's when you set a goal and you set a specific goal for something, and let's say you have a goal of buying a house, or let's even bring it down further and say you have a goal of buying a car. When you say, I'm going to buy a car, that's my goal for this year. Well, is it going to be a crap box car? Is it going to be a 1989 Honda Accord that has 300,000 miles on it? Or is it going to be your dream car? What color is it going to be? What kind of seats is it going to have? And then what I was thinking about was this example that Tracy Walker actually had this in one of her talks, which is kind of funny because it's Tracy Walker's from the other Empower Network, the other online system that we used to use. But she said that when you set a goal and you set a specific goal, and let's say you pray, if you pray to God, or if you meditate, or if you write your goals down, however you determine or tell the universe that you want something, or God that you want something, say it one time, pray for it one time, write it down one time, specifically everything, and then forget about it for a little while and just say, all right, thank you, I appreciate this, and act like you already have it. So she gave the example of her child asking for a cookie. So he asked, I think he said, can I have a cookie after I take my bath? Or something like that. And she was like, yeah, I'll give you a cookie after you take your bath. And her point was he only had to ask for that one time. And once he knew that he was going to get it, he didn't have to ask for it again. He probably wouldn't have got it if he kept asking for it over and over again. Like before his bath, if he kept saying, Mom, can I really have a cookie after bath? She'd be like, yes, you can have a cookie after bath. Comes back 5 minutes later, can I really have a cookie after bath? She's going to be like, well, that's the last time I'm going to say that you can have a cookie. So my point of that is, you don't have to keep asking for the same thing over and over and over again. Once you make it known in your heart and, you say it out loud or you write something down, it eventually will come. And like Eric was saying too, you don't always realize that you've hit a goal until you're like, holy crap, I've already done this. So you kind of have to reflect back on how much you have accomplished so that you can stay on track for what you do want to accomplish too. But I thought that was kind of cool with the planting of a seed in your mind, and the same thing as planting a seed for a plant or something like that. You're not going to dig up the seed to see if it's growing roots. You're just going to let it grow and you're just going to keep feeding it. So it's kind of cool to think of that analogy. And when you were talking about freedom, I just wrote down time freedom is really all that was kind of the general time and financial freedom is what a lot of people want. And for somebody to think of financial freedom, that you have to really focus in and hone in on what the dollar amount is and how much what is financial freedom to you. So after all your bills are paid and everything is taken care of, and maybe even a couple shopping sprees thrown in there for yourself every month, what what else is financial freedom for you? Like, what else do you want to do with your money? What would it be used for? I think that's really important too, not to just say I want $5,000 a month from this extra opportunity that I'm going to work really hard on. Well, what is that $5,000 going to go for, or go towards? So I think that it was cool how you just analyzed the freedom side of it, because freedom is so generic. It could mean so many different things for every single person. So to communicate what you honed it down to is there's a sense of choice. I thought that was kind of cool that you really decided to put a focus back on, you wanted to be able to have choice in your daily life. And I think that it just got me thinking, got my got my mind working again, which is kind of cool. And I also wrote down idleness is the enemy. So when you're idle, basically you don't have anything going on in your personal life, in your social life, in your work life, or anything like that, you end up getting a lot less done. And it's so funny because you'd think that if I have all this time, I can get so much more done with this other thing. So, but in reality, when you have a lot more going on, you give yourself, you put yourself at a higher standard, and you get stuff done a lot faster than you would because you know you have other stuff to do. So in the summertime, it's pretty busy for me. I'm sure it's pretty busy for Eric, just because of all the parties, the barbecues. It's nice out. People want to go to the beach. So basically every weekend for me is pretty booked up. I think this Sunday is like the last Sunday that we actually just got invited to a barbecue. So it was the last Sunday that we didn't really have anything going on. But it's kind of funny though, because when I look at my calendar now and I think about goals I want to hit for this coming summer for the paint business, the paint night in with Mallory Lynn that I just started, which I'm super fired up about, by the way. And I think about those goals I want to hit for this summer, and then I think about the financial goals that I have to get to so that I can hit those goals for my paint business. It's like, okay, I got to get this done by this week or else I won't have time for it because of all the stuff that I have going on in my personal life. So it's just kind of funny when you have more things going on in your life, you just get you get more things done. It's like you prevents you from being lazy or procrastinating on something that you should have gotten done weeks ago because you had to get it done now, or else you wouldn't get it done in the next couple weeks, if that makes any sense. So I think idleness is just something that you want to avoid. You want to, I mean, worst case scenario, you work a 9-to-5 job and you get home and you eat dinner, and this is just kind of an example of what I used to have going on in my life. But I would get home, I would watch a couple of my TV shows, I would go to bed, and the weekends would be my time where I could do stuff for me. And when I realized that's not really something that I was excited about anymore, that's when I started to pursue other things where it would give me a little bit more of my own time freedom, and I could do things that I wanted and felt that I had a purpose, which is, I think, one of the biggest things that we all strive for, is feeling that sense of purpose and that sense of mission and that sense of calling. But I mean, you just want to figure out what that is and just go after it with all that you got, because you only have one life to live, and we all have such a short time. And I'm sure Eric and Meg with their new baby are realizing how fast things really go by as they're watching him grow. They were just showing him before we got live, and he's just a month old and he's already huge compared to what he was when he was born, and he's already just experienced so many cool things of seeing different people, and just to think it just goes by in a blink of an eye. So you don't have anything to lose if you have a passion and you want to go for it. You really have nothing to lose. even if it's something that you do on the side. But finding that passion, I think, is sometimes a little bit more difficult than it is for other people. So.
Right. Cool. I was going to ask you, so I know the idea of the paint nights has been something you've been doing for a long time. And I know you've done a bunch of them, but kind of sporadically. And there was a time, I don't know when it was, but sometime in the last maybe 6 to 9 months or maybe a year that you were like, all right, I'm going to do it, but then it ended up just being like 1 or 2. You know, what kind of either mentality shift or something? Because like even though it was just like a couple posts on Facebook, like I could almost like feel the difference in energy of you know, going after your paint business this time than any time before, even if it was just like, you know, I saw the thing that you kind of changed up your Facebook group and then you got a couple posts and I'm open for business with the scheduling link and stuff. I don't know, just like it already felt different, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
So
I think, yeah, the biggest thing I think that changed was my personal belief. And it's so funny because when I first started it, I had all these doubts in my head of, you know, can I really do this? Can I really have, you know, help people create art and have fun with it and instruct people to do this? And then I don't know, I wouldn't say it was overnight, but it was definitely when I scheduled the last party that I did, and it was actually for my aunt's bridal shower / bachelorette party. I was so fired up for it, and I couldn't even contain my excitement. And then I prayed about it, and I was like, all right, if this is my calling, show me that it is, you know, do your work through me, God. And it was kind of funny, but it's my calling, and it's definitely, it's something that I can help people kind of tap into their creative imagination a little bit and do something that they never even thought that they could do, to maybe open up another opportunity where they think, wait, if I can paint and if I can create that work of art, what can I do in another area of my life that I haven't really tried before? So it was kind of cool. And I actually got that feedback at that party, and it was just a confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I got to do. And also it was another conversation I had with my husband where he said, you have all these people who are interested in setting up a party. Why haven't you reached out to them and really started pursuing it and actually doing it? And I was like, you're right. I don't know why I haven't really kind of, you know, kicked it up a notch. And I think I just booked a potential date night party with my husband's brother. So my brother-in-law and his girlfriend are going to do a date night right across the street. So it's just kind of cool once I knew that it was, and I believe that this is what I'm meant to do and this is what I really, really love, that it's going to happen. I don't know, you know, along the way, I'm sure I'll hit some obstacles, but I'm so fired up about it. I believe in myself. I believe in the business. I believe in the vision. It just goes back to belief. That was as simple as that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. I mean, you can obviously feel your energy. One of the things I was going to say, back to what you're talking about, the biggest enemy is idleness. I actually had this thought maybe a couple weeks ago because you know, we have our next mastermind planned for a few weeks from now, and I was sitting there and I was kind of going through in my head like some planning about it, and planning's not really like my most favorite thing. I love like doing stuff or whatever, and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, okay, we've been having our hangouts, but they haven't been consistent with the whole team lately, so you don't have that interaction and everyone's kind of doing different stuff. But we're going to have a small group at our mastermind, and I know we're going to have a blast. Everyone's going to share, and it's going to be right back to where it was before with that general excitement, which reinforces the fact that if something is your calling or part of your calling or something, you got to consistently do it, right? That's why I came up with the Platinum membership is, you know, Mallory, your passion's art, but the personal development side of continuing to improve yourself, if you don't have some sort of group that's holding you accountable so that you do go back and pursue your art and you keep that belief, because, you know, you might come next month and you're on fire because you have all these events booked, and then maybe at the next mastermind, maybe there's another challenge. Maybe there's a positive challenge. You have too many people that want to book, and you're trying to figure out how to, do all this, different things that come up. And if you're not
That's when I hire an apprentice and I teach them how to do it.
Exactly. So you're already thinking that way. Exactly. So that's awesome. But do you get what I'm saying? That you're in a different spot, and if you don't have that group, it's amazing. Like, I love personal development. I love our Hangouts. I love the idea we're doing with our team. But there's still days where, like, I'm not like all that crazy about it because we're not experiencing it. It's not that I love it any less. It's I'm not doing it, which comes back to the same thing you were saying with, if you're not doing the paint night, then you're not getting that feedback and you're not getting that feeling. It really comes back to the feeling you get by doing what is your calling. And if you're not doing it, you're just trying to get a thought in your head. But if you're in kind of like a, maybe not a negative, but kind of a subdued state, and then you think about your passion, it doesn't come through in the same light as when, if I'm giving a speech about personal development, or we're at our mastermind, or you're doing your paint night and you're in that spot, and then you think about your business, you're like on fire. But if you wait a few weeks and you don't book anyone else, and then you're sitting around and and then you're not feeling great that day, and then you think about your business, you're not only doubting yourself, but you're almost trying to set a vision in your head about what it's going to look like, but the feeling attached to it is like subdued or negative. So now you're like, wait a second. It almost doesn't make any sense, but you're like, wait, so I'm going to hit my goal and it's not going to feel good. That's kind of basically what goes through your head. It's like, okay, like, I'm going to start doing all these paint nights, but the feeling I have attached to that thought really isn't that great. So what am I even doing this for? And that's what kind of happens when you're not continually working on these things.
Yeah, that's such a cool point, because I think, every day is, I don't have this type of energy 100% of the time, every single second of the day. I have a lot of energy, like more than some people, but there are times, like just the other day, 2 days ago, I woke up feeling super, super nauseous, and I actually had donated platelets, blood platelets the night before, and I knew that was why. But I had like a list of things I wanted to get done in the morning, and when I thought about the list with the way I was feeling, when I associated that feeling with getting that stuff done, it was totally negative. So I was like, I just gotta lay on the couch for a couple hours until I feel better, and get some fluid in me. So it was just interesting that you just said that, because I literally experienced that a couple of days ago when I woke up. So it's so important to be in a good state of mind when you are, planning for your vision, or planning for your calling, or whatever your life purpose is, and just to be in a really good state of mind. And that a lot of times that comes from events and from being around people who also have a similar passion, maybe for something else, but who have a similar passion for life, and they have that excitement, and they can get you fired up. And sometimes it's funny, I don't know if you remember this in Cutco, but sometimes you go to events because you're part of the event and you're like running a talk or something like that, and you're contributing. But sometimes you go to the event because you need the event. Like, you need to get around people with energy and with excitement and with passion, and somebody who can, give you some motivation and reignite that flame that might just be going down a little bit inside of you, because you have the flame, but sometimes it needs a little bit of wind, or maybe a little bit more fuel.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know many of you watching might not know exactly what we're talking about. Mallory and I both worked for the same sales company, Cutco and Vector Marketing, and one of our mutual managers, Ryan Trembler, he used to say that they used to have these meetings called division meetings, and then there were regional conferences. And if you think logically, the events were actually for the new representatives that were selling the products, and for the newer people to hear, because the talks a lot of them were very basic and based on following the program and different personal development and all this stuff. But I remember both when I became an assistant manager and a top rep, and when I became actually in management, Ryan told me, when I'm giving those talks at the beginning of the conferences and you think I'm talking to the new reps, I'm talking to the managers and the top reps. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying, because he'll say, for an example, to try to get people that were negative about coming to the meeting, that were like, no, I don't need this meeting. I need to go sell because I haven't been selling lately. The example he gives is when he was a new representative. but there's a lot of managers whose offices aren't really selling, so they don't want to be at the meeting, right? There's a lot of top reps that are like, I don't want to be here because I already know this, but they need to be there. So it's just an example of getting around that energy and all that stuff. And I know this is a topic for another day, but you know, one of the things, I'm sure we'll talk about it at our mastermind and stuff, but what we were just talking about is one of the most powerful concepts there is, and it's the concept of misassociation. So you feel a certain way about something, and then something else comes about, and you attach the feeling to that new thought. Like something goes wrong at work, you get stressed out, you come home, you're in this stressed state, you see your spouse. You get stressed out the next day at work, you come home, you're stressed, you see your spouse. And that starts to become a conditioned pattern, and now you're associating a negative feeling with your spouse or something like that when it literally has absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's what causes a lot of problems in people's lives, because they don't recognize those things. And one of the cool things that Mallory did, and we'll kind of wrap up with this in a few minutes, but one of the things Mallory did is she actually identified what the challenge was, so that she could then stop thinking about the bad feeling and then just go take care of what she needed to take care of, and then go back to what she needed to do. I'll give you an example. We moved out here to Rockport, and my chiropractor's in Andover, which is like 45 minutes away. So we, just with having the baby and the schedules and all this stuff, I used to go every single week, and I've kind of been off and on since we've had the baby for like the last 6 weeks. So, you know, I'm a distance runner. I run very hard and fast and far and all that stuff. So even after a week after not going to see her, my legs are like, one leg's longer than the other by half an inch. My hips are out of whack. My neck hurts, and like all this different stuff. And I haven't gone in a few weeks, right? And she's not only like a chiropractor to help you be in line that way, but also relieve stress and move energy so that you're not creating those, you know, those bad associations. But one of the things I can do, because I know what that does for me, is if I get in a situation where I'm about to create this bad association, I think, all right, where's my checklist? Am I running every day? Am I eating healthy? Did I go to the chiropractor? Oh, I haven't been to the chiropractor in 3 weeks. That's the reason. Even if it's not true, that that's actually the reason, since I can put that thought there, I let it go and I don't worry about it. I don't like think about, oh, why do I feel bad and why am I associating with that person or this situation or whatever. Oh, it's just, I haven't gone to the chiropractor. I'm going next week. And then you just let it go. So again, it's a topic for another day, but that's something that you know, really causes challenges in all our lives, and specifically people who don't ever look into, you know, personal development at all, is that causes all kinds of challenges in their life. But you know, back to what we were talking about, you know, looking at your life as a business, it really is about finding your passion. It's also about looking at your life as a whole. One of the questions I got asked by Meg, who's my wife, my dad, who's, you know, I'm going to be working with, my uncle, the other partner, my mom asked me this. Everyone asked me, they said, so you speak about, you know, personal development, and you have one life and you've got to follow your passions. Are you now all of a sudden saying that like doing like a financial planning accounting job is all of a sudden your passion? And one of the things that I said is, anything you do, you can enjoy or hate based on how you're doing it and how you look at it. But one of the things that I said is, it can be great if it's done the right way in terms of me and how I fit into it. But also, again, it comes back to looking at everything, not just the job. When I look at what is the optimal life for me right now in all facets to get the most out of what I'm doing in all areas, that is the dream opportunity to fill that part of my life. Now, am I saying if I had millions and millions of dollars, I wouldn't be traveling around the world living the laptop lifestyle? I'd be lying to you if I said that I wasn't doing that. I probably would be doing that. But that's not the situation right now. So you have to look at what is the best optimal thing you can do that still involves you, pursuing your passions, having goals that you're moving towards, and keeping your priorities and values in the correct order that you want them to be in. And because of that, that's where satisfaction, commitment, and actually feeling happy about your life comes into play. So when I got that question, it's a two-part answer. One, if I can feel like I take ownership of what I'm doing, I can continue to utilize my skills, and I can really feel like I can contribute to a vision, I think it can be a great opportunity that fits into all the things I'm doing. But the second piece of it is when I look at my whole life and wanting to focus on family first in terms of, you know, having 2 or 3 kids in, you know, a 3 or 4 year span, and being able to then just forget about the finances and kind of set that on autopilot, and then do these other things, the platinum membership, because that's my passion, and helping our team and doing all this stuff. That's the best opportunity that there could possibly be. And because of that, I'm going to give my best effort to it. Whereas if that was just, this is my sole job, I'm not going anywhere, I'm getting my 3% pay raises and my 2 weeks of vacation, and this is going to be whatever, then the same opportunity might be perceived different. I don't know if that makes sense, but so that was
that does make sense, because I think a lot of people, you know, they think that just because they have a job that might not be what they really want to do with their life. Like, say somebody's doing a reception job at, you know, at an office, and they're doing it because they need money to pay their bills, but they also are doing it because they think that sometimes if they think it's the only thing that they can do, or like you were saying, you might feel stuck in some ways. If somebody feels stuck in a position, chances are they probably aren't approaching it with the right mindset, because if they have other things going on outside of the position, like if that same receptionist you know, had something they were passionate about outside of their reception job, because chances are, even if it's 40 hours a week, there's 168 hours in a week. There's a lot of more hours that you can do a lot with.
Less than a fourth of your hours, and 40 hours is less than a fourth.
And yeah, you have to sleep for a good amount of that time, but that's still, you're still left with so much time to do what you really want to do with. So chances are, if you're watching this and you feel like, oh, well, you know, I don't really have a, you know, I'm stuck in my position where I am now. How do I get this sense of excitement? Start figuring out what you really would love to do, and then do it on the side. And it's funny, because when you start to do something you love, you start to have that smile on your face, and you start to go in the office and people start to see something's different about you, and they're like, what's going on? One quick example, when I was I've been doing a couple temp jobs, just office jobs, to what we're talking about, getting by until, you know, that paint business picks up. And this guy that was in the marketing department at this office that I worked for, I was talking to him one day when we were leaving, and I said, well, what do you got planned for this weekend? And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I have this barbecue that I'm cooking, and it's a barbecue competition, like the ones that you see on TV. And you could just tell his face lit up. He was so excited about it. It was just his passion, you know, that's what he would do all the time if he wanted to do it all the time. And you know, after the weekend went by and I came back and talked to him, and he was still really excited on Monday about it, and just in a really good mood. And I said, why don't you do that, you know, full time? He told me that he was offered a chef job at a barbecue place from one of the judges. And I said, well, why don't you take that? And he was like, well, the money would be great. It would be doing something I love, but the amount of time that they require me, because he would have to be cooking on, you know, Friday and Saturday nights, and the hours didn't align with what he really wanted to do and what his life was all about. So yeah, that would be kind of cool. But for him, his vision for himself, which was really cool, was, yeah, he has this marketing job that he's pretty excited about because he's good at it. But his true passion is, he gets so ramped up about these events that he goes to, these fairs, when he does these competitions. That's what gets his excitement and blood flowing every day. So I just think that's so cool that you can find something that, even if you don't want to do it, you know, 24/7, if it's something that you love and it helps you be in a really positive state of mind for the other areas of life that you are a part of, like your home life and your work life, do it. That's the whole point of this. I think that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, and I think
life as a business.
Right, exactly, and that person knows their values. They know, looking at their life as a whole, and and barbecue and all that plays a role, but it just doesn't fit into that specific role. And I was just thinking real quick, I have a cousin who just graduated from college a couple weeks ago, and she's a really great singer. She has a lot of YouTube videos out there, and she was doing it all through high school and was in competitions, and I think she's a great singer. She plays the guitar and piano and all that stuff. And she actually went to Berklee School of Music, and she actually dropped out in the first year because they're so based on, everybody's competing with each other, and this person's trying to get ahead of this person and all this stuff. And she's like, I love music. And I'm like, this is not music. This is just chaos or whatever, right? So she left. She went to another college, and then she went back to doing her YouTube videos and her events every once in a while, and being in little competitions and stuff like that. And she loves music again. So sometimes, like we've been talking about the whole time, sometimes things fit into your overall vision in your life in a different way than you might traditionally think. And when people say follow your passions, yeah, you should follow your passions, but you have to figure out how that passion fits into your values, your goals, overall where you're going in life. And when you can find where different things fit into your life in the way you want it, that's when you win. And one last thing is, I think I said this on a Hangout a couple weeks ago, but that same guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, that I follow, one of the reasons I love him is he's so honest and so blunt and whatever. And he says, if you want to win at the game of life, the goal is to stop complaining. When you stop complaining, you win. He says, I wanted to be someone that made millions of dollars and built companies and took risks and all this stuff. And he goes, I love it. I thrive on it. When I lose, I'm like, I got an L and I'm moving forward and I'm going to win the next one and screw you and all this stuff. He goes, most people would hate my life. They would absolutely hate it. They would think it's cool because I make money and I get to do this and I get to do this. But the whole process, most people would absolutely hate it, yet they have the same goal as me, which would make them miserable. And he goes, but I don't complain. I know that when I spend my time at my office, when I travel, when I do this, when I pick this time with my family, when I go on this family vacation, when I do this, I'm not complaining. He calls it making your bed. He goes, when you made your bed, when you know that this is my spot and I've allocated the time and the money and the resources the way I want, I won. He goes, people try to make fun of people that play Madden 12 hours a day. He goes, if you can pay your bills and still maintain relationships and you can play Madden 12 hours a day, technically you won. You won. He goes, whatever you want, anywhere in the spectrum between being a billionaire, running a company, and having all these responsibilities and doing all this stuff to playing Madden 12 hours a day, you can be anywhere in the spectrum as long as you stop complaining. When you stop complaining, you've won. So it's different for everybody. And that's how, back to this concept of looking at your life as a business, is when you look at everything overall and you can figure out where the puzzle pieces fit, that determines your satisfaction in your life. So any last thoughts, Mal?
That this was an exciting call. I was just like writing on my whiteboard over here stuff that I'm gonna do after this call because I'm so excited. I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep until I get a couple things done. But I just think it's, sometimes you go through stages in your life where I was just listening to a talk online about gleaning. In biblical days, gleaning means that you picked, your job was to pick grapes or something from a vineyard from like the outside edge or something, because that was the poor people who went up to pick the grapes. That's what they did. So if you gleaned or you picked from this outside edge, you were poor and you were looked down upon. And the whole talk said sometimes you have to glean for a season before you can really reap the benefits of your hard work. So I think that we don't always get to do what we love to do 100% of the time, but that's also important because that's when we learn what we don't want to do, and that's what we learn skills, and that's where you kind of figure yourself out. And nobody's perfect. We're all human, and it's so important just to stay true to your heart and everything that you do. And if something doesn't feel right, move on to something else, because you just got to follow that gut feeling, because that's when you're going to get the most sense of contentment and fulfillment and happiness.
Absolutely. So for those of you watching, I hope all this really helps you. You know, if you're someone that's looking for you know, an opportunity, definitely reach out to the person who sent you this video. There's a lot of things we're working on, which is why we really don't have too many specific things that we could point out. If you're looking to really follow your own passions and use the internet to be able to do that, I think if you actually click the link below, you'll be able to check out our mentors, the Brian and Rhonda Swan. They teach something really awesome. It doesn't matter what your passion is, but if you wanted to learn how to create a presence online based on your own passions and brand, even if you've never done anything like that before, you can check that out. But we have a lot of things we're doing. We're involved with that. We have our Platinum membership, which is basically our team, and it's focused on personal development and culture and freedom and you know, really focusing on making a difference. So there's that opportunity too, and that's why we really suggest you reaching out to the person who sent you here, because the goal is, just like we had this talk out loud here, going through that process yourself and figuring out, hey, maybe this doesn't work for you, this does work for you. And one of the challenges with specific programs is you get an idea and you say, oh yeah, this lifestyle or this thing looks cool, I'll just do that, when in reality you don't have any interest doing it at all. It's just something that, you know, the outcome might be exciting to you, the process you might hate entirely. Whereas if you figure out what the things are you want to do, and you can organize that in your life. So if we can play that role for you, I know we'd love to do that. So you guys click the link below and check out Freedompreneur if you'd like, or reach out to your mentor or person who sent you here, and we'll give you some stuff as well. So give you some advice. So that's all I have for tonight. I know I'm fired up. I know Mal's fired up. We'll see you guys on our next call. Live the movie, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.